Hello YouTube, this is Bruno. What is the best creeper farm? Let's go over the different creeper farms that you can build in Minecraft Java. From very simple ones with about 1000 gunpowder per hour to really large ones with almost 100k. I won't discuss perimeter based farms in this video. This is a topic of its own and I might cover that in the future. But today we'll go over the farms that you can build without any digging, for example in an ocean biome. Furthermore, all designs here are without any spawn proofing. They are built at height where you don't need to light up anything on the surface or in caves. I will rate the farms in terms of gunpowder output, build time and build complexity. So here are the designs that we will cover. Our baseline will be a simple universal mob farm, which is something that most technical players will build when they start a new world. This is my take on Gnembon's traditional farm, but with looting, because that gives higher rates than a non-looting farm, even though we have to build it higher. This farm has mobs spawn on diamond-shaped platforms and flushes the mobs down periodically, in this case to the player that stands there with the looting and sweeping edge sword. This farm of course gives gunpowder as well. The first pure creeper farm is one that is recommended in a lot of videos, based on random creeper pathfinding. The player stands at an AFK spot, as always high enough over the ground that nothing can spawn on the ground, and the creepers just wander around and will on occasion fall into the water streams and be flushed to the player. The next design is a dedicated creeper farm based on Gnembon's universal mob farm. So we have platforms where only creepers can spawn. Again, creepers are flushed down and go into a kill chamber. The player stands AFK high in the sky. As an alternative, we'll look into what happens if we use the same platform, but turn it into a looting design. So again, the player is in the sky, 128 blocks over the ground, hits an armor stand and kills the creepers this way. And this design has a lot of room under the mob cap, so we can blow it up. In this case, I have 4 towers of 15 platforms each. All of the creepers go into a common water stream and are flushed to the player, where the player kills them with looting. And yes, we could make this a bit more compact by moving the platforms together. I was lazy. Then of course there is the option to use a portal based design. So the farm is built just over the surface. The creepers are flushed down and go into these portals, and via a nether bridge or a nether mob elevator they come out here near the player. Design number 7, again we'll blow this up and use several platforms or several platform towers to spawn the creepers, to increase the number of mobs and to increase the rates. So we had a lot of farms based on Gnembon's flushing design. This one is by LogicalGeekBoy and it's cat based. So creepers spawn on platforms. In the middle of the platforms you have cats. The creepers are scared, fall down and are killed at the bottom. And this farm uses a minecart to collect the drops. Taking the cat concept to the extreme is Fortunate Diamond's version with 196 cats. So we have 49 of these towers with 4 platforms each. And again, we use portals to move the creepers to a kill chamber where the player kills them with looting. A very interesting alternative to cat-based designs were presented by Abfielder, that also uses spawning platforms with a cat that scares the creepers, but instead of falling down, the creepers will go into a bubble elevator, be moved up to the player, where the player kills them with looting. So this is a farm that does not use any portals. And finally, we'll check out 2 snow golem based designs. So what happens here is creepers spawn, are aggroed by snow golems, throwing snowballs at them. They try to get close to attack them, then they fall down into a kill chamber, where they are killed by campfires. And of course you can use the same farm with a looting concept, where the creepers instead of being killed by soul campfires are killed by the player. And I believe the snow golems designs were invented by MushoDen. Now there are so many creeper farm designs out there that it's impossible to discuss them all. Especially the item pickup can be mixed and matched. You can turn pretty much all creeper farms into portal based designs with a mob elevator. And you can use different ways to kill the creepers. by fall damage or soul campfires or magma blocks. But these designs should give you a good idea what kind of creeper farms you can build and what kind of raids you can expect. All tests were done in Minecraft 1.21.4 on a super flat world with the surface at y equals 75. So if you are in a farm like that, you need a bit of space to do item filters and shulker box loaders. So if you build these farms on a low plains biome or on an ocean, you have a few blocks room for the item collection. So I believe with y equals 75, the rates will be pretty close to what you can expect in a vanilla survival world. Alright, let's dive into creeper farm mechanics. Creepers, of course, will be spawned along with all of the other mobs on pretty much everywhere in the overworld, unless you are in an ancient city or something. And if you want to move creepers, you have several options. You can flush them with water towards a kill chamber. But also creepers are scared by cats. So if you have a cat in a platform, they will try to get away and flee. And on the other side, if you have a snow golem, the snow golem will aggro the creepers. So the creepers will actually move to the snow golem and try to kill it. Unless, of course, they can't get to it. You see that the knockback of the snow golem is a bit of an issue, but if the creeper manages to get close, it will explode and kill the snow golem. Now, if you want to get only creepers and not all of the other mobs that can spawn here, mostly spiders, skeletons and zombies, with also some witches and some zombie villagers, you need to block all of the other mobs. And one way to do that is to have trapdoors 2 blocks high, but bottom trapdoors. So the spawning spaces here are just a little bit under 2 blocks. And that means in this area we block skeletons and zombies because they are exactly 2 blocks high. So they won't spawn here. All we will get are creepers and spiders. And spiders are larger than 1 block, so we can block them using a pattern like this. If we just use a 3x3 pattern. So for example, this carpet will block the 8 spaces around it. These ones. Of course, on the carpet nothing can spawn. And also carpets are a bit iffy if you work with water, because they will be just flushed away. And that's the reason why these platforms are the way they are. We have trapdoors on the roof blocking everything except spiders and creepers. Then we have this pattern. And you can see that no block is there where we don't have a trapdoor adjacent. So, and also we have the trapdoors arranged in a way that the water will reach all of the blocks. And there are a few quartz slabs here, which mark spots where I had to block just 1 block. So if I had a full block here or top slab, then spiders could spawn here. And to block just 1 spot, I will use these slabs. So these platforms are really creepers only. So these are the basic mechanics to move creepers. Now something I won't go into today, you can also move creepers using minecarts. If they get close enough. And then you could bring them to the player. But in this video we will focus on water streams, snow golems and cats. So let's do a deep dive into the different designs and compare them. Number 1. Gnembons farm has been a classic mob farm ever since he introduced them many years ago. And even though this isn't a creeper farm, I want to include it because it does give a surprisingly high amount of gunpowder. And very few players do that, but you really want to use the looting version. Even though you basically have to build it 128 blocks higher, if we have a spawning sphere, you'll see that nothing can spawn on the ground because we are too far away. Assuming you don't want to spawn-proof the surface or even caves below it. The rates of this farm are still significantly higher than the non-looting classic version, where mobs are killed by fall damage, soul campfires or the like. Check out my video on that. Especially with creepers, you always get more drops with looting, despite having to build the farm in the sky. Now I did a video on that a while ago, so I'll be brief. The player stands at the bottom, swinging a looting and sweeping edge sword. The mobs spawn over the player on these diamond-shaped platforms and are flushed down periodically, so they fall into a water stream and are moved to the player. Now this version requires a beacon, because we swing at an armor stand so we can't eat, but there's also a version without a beacon in my video, so if you don't have a beacon you can build this farm anyway and you'll lose just about 10% of the rate, so that's not too bad. On top of the farm we need a roof that blocks out the light and also that contains a clock that is optimized to minimize the time where the platforms are covered with water. Again, I made a video on how to design this clock and why it is this way. I will also link that in the description. All farms in these videos will not have a storage system, but instead we will have a hopper going into a wool block, which allows me, using the carpet mod, to count the amount of drops, like this. This farm is really easy. It has 15 platforms. The only expensive stuff that you need are 15 dispensers and 15 observers and a few water buckets. This farm can be built in vanilla survival literally in the first couple of days of a new world. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to build it, depending on how fast you are. It does generate over 4,700 gunpowder per hour, or over 2.5 shulker boxes. And you'll see that 4,700 gunpowder is more than several other farms that I'll discuss in a moment. And of course you get a ton of bones and string as well. So let's look at some metrics. And at first we're interested in the lag that the farm creates. And for this video we will normalize the lag to 10,000 gunpowder per hour. So for example, this farm creates a lag of 1.15 MSPT. But to get to 10,000 gunpowder per hour, you would have to produce a lag of 2.45 MSPT. The number of building blocks in this farm, which is an approximation of the building time, is 4,467. Again, relative to 10,000 gunpowder per hour, this is 9,504 blocks. So this kind of gives you an idea how difficult it is to build this farm, how many blocks you have to place. And of course this farm uses no additional entities, no cats, no minecarts, nothing. The complexity I think is moderate. It's easy enough to place those blocks in the water streams. You need a redstone clock, which isn't too hard. That's still a fairly easy build. The most complex would be the sorting system in the end. So what's the verdict on this farm? I really think that every technical player should build such a farm as soon as possible in a new world. It will set you up with all the bones and gunpowder that you need in the first weeks of playing. And if you want more gunpowder, then you can always build a larger farm. The complexity is pretty low. All you need are building blocks and one dispenser and one observer per platform. The lag is moderate. You will see it's kind of in the middle of the pack of the farms that we'll consider, because of course we have all those extra entities. We have the skeletons and the spiders and the zombies. Of course they also give bones and string, so that's okay in my book. The farm is scalable up to 15 platforms, so this is kind of the maximum that you can build at this site, because then you will hit the mob cap. You cannot have more than 70 mobs at any time. But you can of course build less platforms, and this scales up to about 5,000 gunpowder per hour. So yeah, I think this is a very nice farm and this is a very good baseline, those 4,700 gunpowder per hour. Let's see what we need to do to get better. It's not that easy to get better, as the next farm demonstrates. So let's check out this pathfinding farm here. And I don't know who originally created this farm. There must be 1,000 videos on YouTube describing it. But this doesn't make it a good farm. The player stands at a spot under the farm. We have 2 levels where creepers can spawn, and they will randomly start to wander. And Minecraft mobs think that they can walk over trapdoors. They will pick a random target to go to, and if this target happens to be on a different platforms, they will just walk over the trapdoors and fall into the water streams, where they are moved to a drop chute and killed by the player using a mending, sweeping and looting sword. As in all remaining designs, we have the trapdoors on the ceiling and something on the floor, in this case carpets, to block spiders. And to get light level 0 we need to build a roof over that. And in this video I use tinted glass so that you can see what's going on inside. Of course you can use any building block instead to make the design much cheaper. The rates of this farm are just under 1,300 gunpowder per hour, or 3/4 of a shulker box. And I don't think this is a good design. There are several reasons. Number one, the rates are less than 1/3 of the rates that we got from the universal mob farm, which is enough for rockets to fly, but you'll have to AFK a long time if you need a bit of TNT. Number two, the design cannot be extended. So you might think we can build more platforms, but no. Here are 2 spawning spheres. And The inner sphere is 24 blocks, and this is the area where anything can spawn at all. So if you get closer to the player, then nothing would spawn. And the outer, the red sphere, and this is Mini Hut by the way, that creates these spheres. The outer sphere creates a 32 block radius, and if you get further away than that, then the mobs will not start to wander. So they would spawn if you go further away, but they would just stand there and do nothing and never fall into the water streams. So if you add more platforms, they would be either too close or too far away from the player. Also a consideration, most players who build this farm don't understand why it works and often build it wrong. So they build the platforms too close or too far away. This is still the best version that I could manage with looting. You could of course also have the player over the farm and kill the creepers using fall damage or something like that, but that would make the farm only slower. The lag is down compared to the previous farm because this time we only have the creepers and not other mobs. The building blocks per 10k are way up though. We have to place twice as many blocks as in the previous farm to get to 10,000 gunpowder. The build complexity is of course very low. This is a very easy farm. My verdict on this farm is that you don't want to do that one. It does have a low build complexity, it doesn't need any redstone, but the rates are very low. Right, let's go back to Gnembon's universal mob farm and turn it into a creeper only farm by spawn proofing the platforms in the way I described. So we add trapdoors to the roofs, we add trapdoors on the floor, and I believe this pattern that I use here is pretty much as good as you can do. I block 20 spaces of each platform. I'm not sure if it's possible to get away with 19. Otherwise, this farm is exactly as the universal mob farm. We have 15 platforms and we do a non-looting version first, where the mobs are just killed by a soul campfire and we have built it as low as possible in the world. And in a moment, we'll check the looting version against that. And it may surprise some of you, but the rates of this farm are worse than our universal mob farm at 3,300 gunpowder per hour, or just 2/3 of what we got from the universal mob farm. There are two reasons. On the one hand, we don't use looting, and on the other hand, we have blocked quite a lot of spawning spaces. So in the universal mob farm, wherever we have trapdoors here, in the original farm, we can spawn mobs there, and we get all the other mobs, of course, but this farm is not really constrained by the mob cap. As you can see, in this farm, we have just at the moment 13 mobs, so usually we'll have between 10 and 20 creepers in there. So we are far away from using the mob cap in this one. Let's check the metrics. The lag is once again low. Once again, we have the creepers that we kill and kill them in about 30 seconds on average. The amount of blocks per 10k is comparable to the previous farm, so that's not really good. The build complexity is again moderate. My verdict on this farm again is you don't want to build this one. It's more complex than our universal mob farm design number 1, but has lower rates. So we have more building blocks because all of the trapdoors. Go with a universal mob farm instead. So let's see if this changes if we go to the looting variant. So we moved the farm up 128 blocks and a few extra blocks. So basically our AFK position is the same, so the farm is at least 24 blocks over our head. And we use looting to kill the mobs. It's essentially our design number 3, but with looting. And this time our rates are about the same as in the universal mob farm at 4,700 gunpowder per hour. We are using looting this time, but the damage from blocking spawning spaces is still too high. And once again we just get an average of maybe 15 mobs in a mob cap. We could add more platforms, so we could build this up all the way up to 128 blocks over the player. So up to say 35 platforms, and by this you could more than double the number of platforms and perhaps about double the rates. But as it is, with 15 platforms, the universal mob farm has still the same rates and it is easier to build. But compared to the previous farm, we get about 50% more drops, and this is the effect of looting. If you go to a looting farm with creepers, you will get about 50% more drops, even though you have to move the farm up in the world. Let's check the metrics really fast. The lag is the lowest so far. Again, we only have creepers as entities, and basically we have the same lag as the previous farm, but we get more rates. The building cost is pretty much the same, and the complexity is once again moderate. So is this a feasible design? Yes, I think so, if you build more platforms. So if you do, for example, 30 platforms, which would almost double the rates, then you would get maybe close to 10,000 gunpowder per hour. I think this is a pretty nice farm, and it still has a pretty low build complexity. But it doesn't really make sense to build this farm with as little platforms as 15, because in this case the universal mob farm is cheaper and just as fast. But this is a decent one-dimensional farm for up to, say, 10,000 gunpowder per hour. However, there is one advantage to blocking out all of the other mobs. We can multiply the design, because this way we are way under the mob cap. If, for example, our spawning area produces about 15 creepers at any time, then we can just multiply it, for example, by 4 and be mostly under the mob cap of 70. So we'll do just that. And as we have seen that looting designs are generally better than non-looting ones, we'll just look at the looting version. In this case I have created 4 spawning towers, a total of 60 platforms. The flushing is staggered out so that only one platform is flushed at a time. And this time we get over 17,000 gunpowder per hour. That's about 4 times as much as the previous design. Now we do have diminishing returns. We can't extend as much further. I tried 6 towers with 90 platforms each and the rates increased by just 1,000 gunpowder. So I guess about 4 towers and 60 platforms is roughly the sweet spot for this design. And the reason for that is that we are now mob cap constraints. We frequently reach the mob cap of 70 at some times. So adding more spawning spaces will give only very limited increase in rates. And of course, in this design it takes a long time for the creepers to reach the players, to go through all these water streams, be flushed down. So the only way to increase the rates would be to reduce the time to kill. But even though we can make this design a bit more compact by staggering these platforms a bit and moving them together, it won't be a big game changer. Let's look at the metrics. The lag is a bit up compared to the previous design, but still the second best so far. We have a total of 21k building blocks. That's still pretty good compared to the other farms that we had so far. And of course we have no extra entities and the complexity is once again medium. Now, is this a viable design? Yeah, absolutely, I think so. I mean, 17,000 gunpowder is nothing to sneeze at. The complexity is not too high, the building effort is not too high, and the lag is pretty low. So I think that's a good design that you can build if you want more rates than, for example, a universal mob farm. Now, we will see faster designs in a moment, but they will either use portals or they will be more difficult to build. So if you need a ton of gunpowder and you want a relatively simple farm, then check out this design here. So let's talk about portal-based designs. We take once again the bog standard Gnembon design, but this time the farm is built low on the surface. And the lower we build, the higher rates we get. The creepers go into portals and via another bridge. Let me show you the bridge. So this is very simple. It's 3 wide. On one side we have blocked a portal. This portal is 1 block higher, so we have a slab that the creepers can push each other in there. This was basically made popular by ENX04 in his farms. Okay, and they come out here at the portal on top, and there the player stands. And for creepers it's very simple. We can just have a water stream with a gap that is 1 high, and the drops will go through. The creepers will stay in there, and we can hit them with an armor stand. So the advantage of this design is that we get higher spawn rates because we can build the farm lower. And indeed we get 7,900 gunpowder per hour compared to 4,700 in the previous looting design. That's an increase of almost 70% at virtually the same building cost. The nether bridge is super easy to build and the rest of the farm is very similar. The big drawback of this design is that it uses portals, and if you play on a server and another player is on a nether and he is over 128 blocks away, all of the creepers despawn at once. So if you play on the server and another player is in the nether, then this farm will not work. You need a second player, like a buddy, to AFK for you near the nether bridge. That's the price that you always pay for these portal-based farms. But in single player this won't matter. The building time or number of blocks is the best so far, and we have virtually the same number of blocks as the standard Gnembon farm, but much higher rates. The lag is the highest so far, because all of these creepers pushing each other in the nether will cause a lot of lag. But once again, in single player, that's probably not a big issue. So is this a viable design? In single player, absolutely. It gives pretty nice rates for a very limited build effort. However, on a server, I would probably go with a different design that has higher rates, because the effort to secure the nether bridge with another player is rather high. So what happens if we blow this up? This time I used 4 columns or 60 platforms, again with a bit staggered flush rates, so they are not flushed at the same time. And they are spaced out because this way it's much easier to get the creepers in the portals. And in fact, the rates are up to 24,000 gunpowder per hour, or 3 times the output of the previous farm for 4 times the building effort. And that's already a decent output, almost 3 times hopper speed, or 15 shulker boxes per hour for a very moderate 21k blocks that you need to place. Note that you need a sorting system here. You will spawn a few ziglins in the portals and get a few rotten flesh and gold nuggets from time to time. The lag is up again, however. We're at 1.88 MSPT for 10k gunpowder. Only our universal mob farm so far was worse, and that one gives bones and string along with the gunpowder. Once again, this is because we have a ton of entities on the nether bridge, and the more entities we have in a small space, the more collision checks the game needs to do. Once again, is this a viable design? Sure, if you need 24,000 gunpowder and you can use portals, then go for it. It's a pretty nice design. It's probably not that difficult to build. I'd say maybe you need 5 to 6 hours for that. That's not too bad. So far we have mostly looked at flushing designs. And the drawback of that design is the time to kill is pretty high, so it takes a while until we kill the creepers. For example, if we flush once every 30 seconds, then creepers will linger on the platform for an average of 15 seconds after spawning. Then it takes a few more seconds to move them to the player using water streams. So I guess the time to kill would be on average something like 30 seconds. Which means we fill up the mob cap really quick. What if we had a way to move the creepers off the platforms a lot faster? And there the cat-based design comes into play, because as soon as the creeper spawns, at least a couple of seconds later it will notice the cat and it will start walking off the platform. And then it falls down, so we have a very short time to kill in this farm design. And this means we can potentially make this farm a lot larger, because this farm leaves the mob cap pretty open. Magma blocks aren't the fastest way to kill mobs. It would probably be better to use soul campfires here, or to build the farm a bit higher and have the creepers be killed by fall damage. And the drawback, of course, is that we need to breed and wrangle cats, which increases the building effort significantly. And cats are entities that cause lag as well. So let's look at this design here by LogicalGeekBoy. We have cats sitting in the middle of the platforms in a minecart, which makes it really easy to position them. We need these solid blocks on the outside here, because creepers will pathfind to these blocks and then walk over the trapdoors. We can't use any transparent blocks, or we can't leave the blocks out. And now we could also use looting and portals if we like, but let's stick to the basic version here to just have a number. We have 10 platforms, so we need 10 cats and 10 minecarts. And the rates are about 2,600 gunpowder per hour. And compared to the basic flushing farm, we have pretty much exactly the same lag. The creepers have a shorter time to kill, so we get less lag from the creepers, but the minecarts and the cats eat up this advantage. We also have a pretty large number of blocks, the largest so far, for 10,000 gunpowder. Now, to be fair, this design was intended to be built on the perimeter. Maybe it's not quite fair to compare it with the designs that were strictly designed for the overworld. So I would not recommend this design if you want to build this farm in the overworld on the surface. But let's see what happens if we take this to the extreme. Because cat-based designs allow much higher rates if you blow them up. And I think the highest I've ever seen is this absolutely crazy farm from Fortunate Diamond. He uses 196 spawning platforms. So these are 49 columns, 7 by 7, and each with 4 platforms. And in previous versions with boat looting, he reached rates of 150k, which is the highest I've seen for a farm that is not in the perimeter. The issue in the latest version, unfortunately, is that boat looting is broken. So you will get these 150k items only if you use a second player in the nether to kill the creepers there. If we stick to one-player farms, as we did here, I replaced the kill chamber with a very simple one. The creepers come out, fall onto cobwebs and are killed there. Now this fills up the mob cap a bit more, and the rates I got in this farm were about 96k, which is still pretty insane. However, it also requires you to wrangle 196 cats, and the farm is also quite a lag machine at 15 MSPT. Although that's not too bad if you break it down per 10k gunpowder. With 1.45 MSPT in 10k, we're pretty much in the middle of the pack. We need to place a whopping 90k blocks to build that farm, but once again, compared to the rates, that's actually not that bad either. So what's the verdict on this farm? Well, let's say it's not for me, because it would be too boring for me to build 196 identical platforms, wrangle 196 cats, and also the farm uses portals, which makes it very iffy on a server. But if you want a large-scale project, if you have fun doing that type of thing, I think this is the highest rate of a creeper farm that I've ever seen in conditions that were not in a perimeter. There is, however, one version of the cat-based farms that I really like, especially on a server, and this is the design by Abfielder. Again, it's a looting farm. Again, we spawn the creepers low in the world, as low as possible. But Abfielder, of course, uses these bubble columns to move the creepers up. And especially in 121.4, where mobs move somewhat faster in water streams than before, this leads to pretty high rates. In this case, with 33 platforms and 136 cats, we get over 23k per hour. Now, that's not as crazy as Fortunate Diamonds farm, but again, this is much faster to build. Of course, there's still the chore of moving 136 cats into correct positions. This is, in fact, the most lag-friendly farm that we had in this test so far. It's quite a bit better than our 24k farm with the portals. So we don't need minecarts for the cats here, which brings down the number of entities. The number of building blocks is a bit higher than our 24k 60 platform portal farm at 26k. Per 10k gunpowder, this farm is somewhere in the middle of the designs we checked out here. Per 10k gunpowder, we need to place about 30% more blocks than in Fortunate Diamonds farm. So what's the verdict on that? That's probably the farm to go if you need a ton of gunpowder and can't use portals because you play on a server. And if you are worried about lag because you want to be friendly to the other players. It is very lag friendly, and I give it a medium complexity because of all the cats. And placing 26k blocks, even with 136 cats, is a lot less effort than digging a perimeter. Having said that, a perimeter will allow, of course, a lot higher rates. So if 22k per hour isn't enough, then you need to use portal and go to Fortunate Diamonds design, or you will have to dig a perimeter. The penultimate farm in our list is certainly a fun one, designed by MushoDen. We can actually use snow golems to aggro creepers. They will walk towards the snow golems and once again fall through the trapdoors into our kill chamber. So we have a water stream here down at the bottom and some soul campfires. Snow golems are much easier to produce and place than cats, even though this farm requires to nudge the golem into place, which can be a bit iffy. The rates are surprisingly good. I got roughly 6,100 gunpowder without looting. The number of blocks is up there at 11k total, or 19,800 per 10k gunpowder, which comes out at the highest building effort among all farms in this video. And the lag is unfortunately rather horrible, over 3 times higher than all other creeper farms in this test. Possibly the mob AI is more expensive when the creepers and golems go at each other. Also, we can't increase the rates as this farm already fills the mob cap with 5 spawning platforms. Now, it often takes a while until a creeper is aggroed by a snow golem, and with the additional knockback from the snowballs, the time to kill isn't great. With 80 snow golems in there, we also have quite a lot of entities. But still, it's quite a sight to see the farm working. I had to adapt the farm a bit because there were some changes with mob hitboxes and reach, but this design was stable, at least for the duration of the test here. One thing you need to know, however, is that you build anything wrong in this farm, if you miss even a single carpet or misplace a single trapdoor, that at some point some creeper will explode. And then if a creeper explodes, then other mobs can spawn, kill your golems. then you will need to rebuild the better part of the farm. I will provide a schematic for this farm, even though it's not my own design. Usually I don't do that, but here the original world download is no longer available. So you can check out my modifications and this design. Now this is certainly a fun farm, but if you want to build it, hold your horses and check out the looting version of this farm that we'll check out next, because that one is better. And this is the looting version of the farm. Once again, we move it up 128 plus 24 blocks. Otherwise, it's exactly the same farm with a little drop chute here. And the rates increase to a whopping 12,000 gunpowder per hour, which is actually quite good. The lag is still the second highest on the test though, although it's only half of the previous farm because we have the same lag but pretty much twice the rates. The amount of building blocks to place is kind of in the middle of the farms in our test here. I'd say this is a fun farm. And if you have already built several creeper farms and you are looking for a fresh design, then go for it. So if you want a source of gunpowder and don't care about the fun part, then look for a different design. The lag is an issue, and if you want to build it on a busy server, then maybe better look at Abfielder's design instead. Here are the farms all at one glance. There are a few farms that I really like and I think that are good options. The first one is certainly Gnembons Universal Mob Farm. If you need limited amounts of gunpowder, that's the one for you. It will also give you bones and string. And the max rates in this table here are if I estimate that we blow the farm up to the maximum number of platforms. So for example, we measured Gnembon's looting farm, number 4, at 4,700 items per hour. But if you blow it up to the maximum number of platforms, then you will hit the range of 128 blocks to the player. So you can probably get the numbers up to roughly 9,000 gunpowder per hour. But if you want more than Gnembon's Universal Mob Farm, then I would probably go for something that gives significantly more. So for example, options are Gnembon's 4x looting farm with 17,000 items per hour, or Abfielder's cat farm, which 23,000 items per hour, which do not need portals. Or alternatively, if you want to use portals, you could go with Gnembon's 4x farm, which gives probably around 30,000 gunpowder if you build it to the max. Or you could use Fortunate Diamond's insane farm with the many cats. As for the snow golem designs, as I said, these are fun farms. You can build it if you want to have fun, but they are not the best farms if you just want gunpowder. Finally, let's demonstrate how you can blow up a farm to 35 platforms. So this is pretty much the best we can do. We are in an ocean biome because we need to build the farm a bit lower. And you see in the spawning sphere that we have a few spaces right on the ocean, but that's not a big issue. You can also build it in a plains biome and light up the ground. And the lowest platform is exactly 24 blocks over the player, so this is just enough that mobs can spawn there. And the highest platform is just inside the spawning sphere. So indeed we can fit 35 platforms here. And the rates are actually a bit more than we predicted, 10,500k gunpowder. So that's, for example, the limit that you can achieve with design number 4. Another long video. I hope you liked it nevertheless. I will include a world download with all of the farms except the one by Fortunate Diamond. Please go to his video and check out his world download. I'm not sure if the boat looting was fixed in the meantime. If it was, then you could increase the rates even more in Fortunate Diamond's design. So maybe we can get back to the original 150k, that would be pretty nice. Thanks for watching, leave a like if you want to see more content like this. Please subscribe so that you don't miss any of my videos, and see you next time. Bye bye!